I saw this clip recently on TikTok of Tim the Tap Man talking about how the games that we grew up with, I'm a millennial, so games in the 90s, 2000s, those types of games, that golden era of gaming is gone. And now the only thing that companies care about is making as much money as possible. I want to push back against that idea in this video because I don't think that A, it's historically accurate, and B, I just think it's kind of an unhealthy, incorrect mentality to have, and it can kind of just warp your perspective on gaming, and you're going to miss out on a ton of awesome games if you think the same thing. So I'm going to play this clip here, and then I want to talk about why I disagree with it.
The gaming that we grew up with is gone. Back in the day, it was about making a great game. And just to be clear, I'm talking old school Super Nintendo, right? Mario, N64, GoldenEye, like OG Halo, OG Call of Duty, Counter-Strike 1.6. These games, Half-Life, Team Fortress Classic, these games were about fun. It was to make a good game that was fun, okay? And now, in my opinion, gaming now, and I get this, I understand, times have changed, man. It's about profit. Instead of, it was almost like back in the day, it was kind of like a passion, and now it's about profit. Maybe that's the right way to say it, right? Back in the day, people wanted to make great games that were awesome, that people could have fun playing. And now it's more about how much money can we make making this game?
So the first point that I want to make here is, yes, there's absolutely more scammy business behavior going on right now. I think microtransactions are not good for the industry. Gambling is terrible. Games as a service type models aren't good. And so there is a valid point there. However, I want to make the argument that great games existed in the 90s alongside the need for profit. This emphasis placed on running a successful business and creating a successful product that sells as many copies as possible is not a new thing. Think about all the ads that were in magazines and on TV and in the windows in the mall of like all the different shops you'd go to, whether it's GameStop or EB Games. All of that marketing material costs so much money to put out. And those companies didn't put it out because they just love art and they want you to know about their games they're putting out. They had so much capital tied up in marketing materials because they're trying to sell as many copies of their game as possible. But it's easy to look back in the 90s and 2000s and only kind of remember the classic feature complete games that came out and they were just really good, but you don't remember the duds that had the same amount of money spent on marketing but ended up over-promising and under-delivering. So I would argue that there is as much emphasis placed on profit in the 90s and 2000s as there is now, and companies are going to find ways to make money however possible within this industry. And I think a good example of this is Bethesda. You know, you could make the argument that gaming is bad now because all these big corporations are ruining things, and there's some truth there, but I want you to think about Bethesda. The moment Bethesda realized, hey, we could charge money for horse armor as a DLC. Boom, they did it immediately. So this we have to make money and profit is important mentality is not exclusive to big corporations that are soulless. Making money is a core foundational principle of how to run a business. And these businesses are going to try to make as much money as possible because if you're profitable, you get to make more games. EA didn't make Dead Space because they were like, we've made so much money with Madden. What if we just waste a lot of money on a scary game? They saw the success of Resident Evil and they wanted to make a title that could compete within the horror genre. And so they took a gamble on creating a new IP and it paid off. And because it paid off and it sold a ton of copies, we got Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3. What I think has changed the most from the 90s to now is the internet. It's made gaming more accessible. It's increased awareness. It's done a lot of really good stuff for this hobby of gaming, but it's also allowed companies to release products that aren't finished. So single player titles that need a day one patch or like a month two patch, that I don't think is acceptable. And that is a very bad business practice and that shouldn't be rewarded. What was different in the 90s was you didn't have the internet. So when Metal Gear Solid 1 shipped out and put on the disc with all the art and the booklet, that thing had to be finished because Konami knew that If they ship out a game that is a buggy, broken mess, that doesn't make money. And there is a good argument there that that strategy of we can't patch this later, it did result probably in a lot more games coming out that were in a better state or a finished state than what we have now. But that doesn't really change my argument that profit still was a priority. They just went about making money in a different way. We as gamers just kind of benefited from that different strategy a bit more then than we do now. And if I was Tim or someone like Tim that had a platform the size of his, I would probably want to take a step back and think about, if I really hate the landscape right now of gaming and I think that it's going downhill and everything sucks and the only thing that matters is profit, yet all I stream are live service games, Fortnite, games that have like battle passes, and I don't think that he streams any Counter-Strike, but games that take advantage of people through gambling, all that kind of stuff is terrible for gaming. It's absolutely terrible. And to almost exclusively play those types of games and then complain about the industry, I think is kind of silly. If I was Tim, I'd maybe stop that for a while and just focus on single player titles, because I think it's that category of game, single player, narrative rich, story focused games. That's where the magic still exists within gaming. Really great titles that are made by passionate developers who still care about the art of gaming and making a good product. Those games still exist today, but they're probably not going to be live service games that are free online multiplayer arena type titles. And if that's what you're playing and you're looking for the same type of like nostalgic hit that you got in the 90s and 2000s, you're not going to find it there. Tim might push back on this idea and say, man, I can't play those games because my audience won't watch them. Well, brother, let me tell you about something called audience capture. And what you are describing for yourself is the exact thing that these big gaming studios also deal with. They are making a product that people will buy and play in the same way that you are streaming titles that people watch. And that's a good example of, what's extremely popular might not be the best representation of the quality of a hobby or of an industry. So to wrap all this up here, if you think that games are dying, if you think that it was better in the 90s and 2000s and everything sucks now and games are only about profit and these big corporations are ruining everything, you're not entirely wrong that things have changed, but I would push back and I would say, maybe don't play multiplayer games for a while. Go on Steam, sort by story-rich, narrative-focused single-player games, and play things that have great reviews that you've never heard of before. And I bet your perspective on gaming will change and you will restore this passion for gaming that you once had, because you'll find titles that are made by people that really, really care about the art of gaming.